So I'm working on my blocks that you've seen me make. My charm square. My quilt is coming together, and I'm sewing my blocks together in their rows. Oh, my thread came unthreaded. Let me see. So I wanted to show you, I've always said I don't have a design wall. I sort of do, because this is what I do just in the course of me throwing my quilts together. I just sort of, on my shelving unit, as you can see, I just sort of shove the fabric without stressing the fabric into my fabric bundles with my the way I keep my fabric. So I just sort of put it up there. This is my quilt coming along. I'm on 1, 2, 3, 4. I've done 4 rows. I'm constructing my 5th row. And if you remember, oh, my chair's low. If you remember, I put my rows, my blocks in order like this. So I'm working on my 5th row. And if you remember, it's light, dark, light, dark. So now I'm just doing a 1/4 inch seam. I'm just attaching my blocks together down the long side, if you remember, the long side. And then I will have to match the seams here going down. And as you can see, they're all pretty good. I don't pin these things. I was saying before, it may or may not be a good way that you want to approach quilting. I pick my battles. Some things I'm not bothered about. And if my blocks don't match, you know, they're slightly out, that doesn't bother me. I could probably be perfect, if you want to be, by pinning every single intersection. I don't. I'm pretty good. I've been sewing for quite a long time, and that's one thing that I'm not particularly bothered about. So now, oh, that didn't catch. Yeah, see, now that didn't catch. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my seams, and yeah, this one didn't catch. And then sew my row to that row, and I'll show you how I do it. That's better. So now I'm going to come over to my ironing board. I'm going to figure out these seams are going that way, so I want these seams to go this way. I know what I'm talking about. So I just set my seam. I'm going to roll that over, and I'll do that the entire way. Now, this is just how I do things. And again, however you are doing it, that's fine. However you're ironing it, you make what's comfortable for you, and the way you want to do things. So now I'm working on my 5th row, pressing that along, setting the seam, rolling it up. And I was thinking about that. You know, I was talking about having a design wall. I do have a design wall. There it is. I was talking to Jen the other day, and she was saying, again, you know, how very fast. And I said, you know, my machine is shockingly fast. It really is. But I'm also very blessed that I'm not interrupted by little children. As you know, I had a very large family, and I haven't been able to quilt for decades. And now I'm not interrupted. This is my job. I don't have a secular job outside the home. So I can sew quick, and I can devote quite a lot of time. But now what I want to do is on this end, if you remember, it's dark, light, dark, light. So on my 5th row, this is dark, and this is my light block. So what I'm going to do, and I make sure I've done it really well, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go my right sides together, and then I'm just going to pull this down off my wall. This is a big quilt. This is a very decent sized quilt. I'm just going to come around. You can't really see, but now there's seams to be matched. You know, remember vertically seams, the way I've constructed my blocks. So I'm not going to pin. I can just sort of feel and look the way they've been constructed. A 1/4 inch seam. But look at the machine. I've had 10 sewing machines in my sewing life, and nothing has been like this. It's almost like it's a domestic machine, but man, flies at like this commercial rate. I mean, really flies. Yeah, I'm thrilled. Now you can't see, but my seams are matching up pretty good. But by all means, I encourage a beginner that at each one of these intersections, you pin. You pin at each intersection. I've been sewing for 45 years. I don't expect beginners to be able to, you know, eyeball it. And again, that wasn't perfect. But I'm not particularly bothered if I'm you know, 1/8 of an inch out, 1/4 of an inch out on what will be a utilitarian quilt. I'm fine with it. And I guess that's either, like I said, it's either a good thing or a bad thing. But this is how I sew. Oops, my bobbin thread ran out. Oh no, my top. Oh no. Oh, both of them ran out. Isn't that funny? But anyway, I'll show you the sort of the beginnings of my 5th row. So what I do, my thread ran out. I have to do it. But this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm doing here. I'm just sort of very gently pushing that in there, and then very gently pushing that in there, just so I can get a visual. And my thread ran out. But as you can see, this is my bottom row, and I've stitched along there, and I'll finish stitching here, and then I'll just continue with my row 6 and 7, and there my quilt top is done. Now I haven't yet got my fabric from the fabric store that I had purchased for the border. I think it's sort of like one of these prints. It's like it's one of the brown prints. And I don't have an awful lot, but I think I'll do a little tiny white of this white fabric around the edge, around this first border, and then about maybe a 3-inch border. But it's a nice, decent sized quilt. And there you see, just in those few minutes, you can see how I constructed the blocks together, and then just constructed the rows, put the rows on, and I have a quilt block. So again, this quilt's coming together, it's evolving. I don't know how I'm going to quilt it. I actually had gotten, with my new sewing machine, I had gotten what are called quilting rulers. Not for a beginner at all. No, I don't even think for me, because I have to figure it out. I have to figure this out. You know, long arm quilters, that when you send out your quilt to a long arm quilter, you make the quilt top and you provide the backing, and then they load it onto a large machine, a quilting machine, and they run the machine, either computerized or by hand guided, across your quilt top and quilt your quilt top on this great big 12-foot long machine. A lot of the time, these long arm quilters use what are called quilting rulers. Well, they've devised for domestic machines a specific foot. I've never done this before. I just got them, so I don't know if I'm going to love it. They have this foot, which is thick. It's a thick foot, and then they have these rulers. These plastic, they're called rulers, in different shapes. I don't know if you can see that. So like that one, you hold the ruler and you run with a free motion quilting stitch around. I don't know how to do it, but I got them, and I was thinking maybe on this quilt I will actually experiment. After I experiment on some fabric, my rulers. So there's specific instructions here on how to use these rulers. Which looks a little bit looks a little bit hard. Actually, I was looking up some tutorials, and I'm proficient at quilting, but you're working with your quilt sandwich, and then you have to hold the ruler, like that one is you have to hold the ruler as well as guiding your fabric around the ruler to make different shapes. So I don't have a clue how to do it. But I would like to. I would like to. Maybe it would open up a whole new world. As I said, I'm pretty good at free motion quilting, and that's all this is. It's a specific design free motion quilting. And even as I was buying my machine, my husband went with me, and he said, "Do you really need these?" Because I use my stencils when I free motion quilt, and I just eyeball free motion quilting. I can do flowers and stipples and circles, and I thought, you know, it may be a gadget, which I'm not really into, but I got it. I got it anyway. I'm going to see how I like it. It seems like it's a lot to do, and I'm okay with that, but it's like you have to hold that, you have to make sure, I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to, as I always say, my quilts evolve, your quilts evolve. Don't have a clue what they're going to look like at the end. I'm going to finish doing my bobbin in my machine, and finish my rows up, and then I'll wait for my fabric to come. It hasn't come yet. It's been a week. I thought I would have gotten it a little bit sooner, but I'm okay with that. I made my blue quilt in the meantime, as you saw. And then yeah, I'll work on finishing up my quilt top, and then I'll get my border. One of these fabrics will be the backing. I don't know which fabric I'll choose to back my quilt, and then I'll sandwich it, I'll baste it together, and then I'll figure out my quilting stitch. And I may show you how I do this. Again, not for beginners, not for advanced quilters, for like really, really smart people, because I don't have a clue how to do them. That may have been a waste of money, or not. We will see. So anyway, I'm going to finish up making my quilt top. Okay.